Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This guy looks warm and cozy right next to me. His name is Tim, and this is The Second Legacy, and thank you so much for stopping by. If you guys are new here, this is a new type of channel around 2A political news and analysis. We get to break everything down and spend some real deep time beyond the breaking news to show you what it actually means for you and where we're going with it, and that is the whole point of the channel. So if you guys are down with that mission, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. With that, Tim, we've got so much stuff here, my man. I mean, I know how you love you some Michelle Lujan Grisham for New Mexico.
I know. You know what's amazing is the fact that we can do daily shows and they never like short us on content. They're always right
That's
there,
true.
making
That's
sure
true.
we have
There's a
plenty
lot to
to talk about.
digest. That's I think what you said before show was amazing. We're like the upper GI tract of the Second Amendment news. So good. Lots to take in, lots to get nutrients out of. All right.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, you know what? I think we should start something, Tim. I think we owe this to the population, to the people. There's a new disease out. I don't know if you heard, but it's a new disease. It's communicable. It's bad. It's bad.
There's a new contagion rolling around.
Yes, actually. It's official. The Secretary of Health from New Mexico, it just told us. Check this out. This is number 1 from Dr. Buttonpusher.
The law enforcement efforts, there's violence interruption grants that we have available and that applications are due for shortly that allow cities and other jurisdictions to be able to deliver programs that help break the cycle of violence moving from person to person, because violence really is a contagious disease.
It's official, Tim. It's official. So it's a contagious disease.
You know, I was just kicking my dog last night and I realized my cat was kicking the other cat. I was like, maybe there is a contagious aspect to this violence.
What a weird example.
Wow. I know, right? Well, this is a weird comment. I mean, seriously, where do you come up with this? Is this tied to the CDC trying to make violence some sort of a pandemic? Is that what he's trying to hitch his wagon to? I mean, what's this goon talking about?
I'm glad you asked.
We want to break this violence of the cycle of violence. You know, it's communicable. And oh my gosh, I didn't mean to get violence on you. Oh, you better go see the doctor.
Exactly. You got to wear your mask and wash your hands so the violence doesn't spread.
Yeah.
Legitimately. And so it's funny that you asked him, because this was in an update that the governor of New Mexico gave around her public health order and a big marketing push to say how effective it was. That's what this meeting was. So the Secretary of Health, who you just saw from New Mexico, has deemed violence as a communicable disease. It's contagious. It's a problem.
You know, I think there might actually be something medically going on down there. It might be stupid in the water, and we need to dispatch, all the government agencies, all the alphabets down there and do some groundwater testing and stuff, because clearly stupid is being communicated down there. It's going from person to person, especially in government.
I don't think violence is the only thing that's a contagious disease. That was a stretch, but I think it's a good one to note for the population, so we know how to avoid anyone who is violence sneezing and hasn't washed their hands after kicking said dog. It's important to note, Tim. It's important to note.
Yeah. If you're at an indoor firing range, you just want to make sure you keep not 6 feet, at least 16 feet of distance from people around you, because you don't want the violence spreading should it crop up.
That's right. What did they call that? They called that
social distancing.
Social distancing. Oh, that's right. Oh my goodness. Social distancing.
We'll call this violence distancing, and it's got to be 16 feet, not 6, because we're just making up numbers. No, let's make it 10. 10 seems to be the magic number. 10 feet.
Yeah, 10's too much. Yeah, you got to have under 10 rounds. Oh my gosh. Okay, and that's just the beginning, Tim. That's just the beginning, because not only are we now aware of a new disease that's out on the planet, we have the governor herself. I always want to call her mayor. I don't know why, but the governor herself. She's going on the tirade about how effective her public health order is. She goes down the road of so many things, Tim. This is going to be fun. Let's go right into her, the star of the show in New Mexico, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. Number 2, Dr. Buttonpusher.
Which is why we are doing our inspections, and we've done an incredible amount of our gun shops, well over 400. I will tell you that's way more than is even allowed by the federal government. And so we are touching every pressure point, every place where we can reduce illicit activity. If it occurs, we're on it.
Did she just admit to breaking federal crime? I mean, like, you know something about FFLs, right?
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
This woman's all sorts of special, man. Wow.
She is. Yeah.
Let's-
Because
What do you
why
even
not?
say to that? Right?
I mean, you guys question. You just question it. Like you said, like it's very rare that you and I are short for words, but it's one of two things. Did you just admit to breaking federal law? Or are you saying you're doing it more than the federal government? Because we might need some clarification on that one, Gov.
The judge that keeps striking her little decisions and edicts down probably watched this press conference rubbing his head going, she's giving me a headache.
Probably. I mean, well, after all, this entire press conference was to show how effective this entire public health order was. And then she goes down. I didn't grab these clips because that's not the point of this digestion episode that we're doing.
Yeah.
But she goes down all this thing. Like, look how many drug dealers that we took off the streets. And look how many people were arrested for violent, felonious crime. And she goes down this entire road. And she's like, if we didn't have the public health order, this never would have happened. And everyone is going, the public health order was blocked, banned, barred, and stopped.
It was
almost
never
immediately.
implemented because, it keeps getting shut down by the courts.
Exactly. And your own enforcement said it ain't happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It has nothing to do with policing. No, it was her public health order. Yeah, it whipped those police into shape, and now they're out there actually doing their jobs. I mean, what is she saying? Because it certainly wasn't her public health order. All that did was get the attention of the courts.
That's exactly right.
The only place it's been effective is aggravating the judge. So,
yep,
yeah,
it's an interesting. This was like watching this whole thing because I live streamed it on my channel. Watching this entire thing in real time was comical. Like it was absolutely fascinating. It was like watching narcissism grow out of a bud into a flower. It was real weird. But that's just halfway, Tim. We're only halfway through the goodies for you.
I'm scared.
Oh yeah, here we go. So let's go into number 3. This is another little nougat.
Lastly, expect to see assault weapons, a ban on my call. And given now, and I'm going to give Senator Heinrich, who's been working on this, but just give you a sense of how long this has been taking this country. For more than 7 years, so that the mechanics feature test, which trips us up because we modify guns in this country, and get a gun kit, legally or illegally. And so you take a firearm that's not as dangerous and you can turn it into a weapon of war. And we don't know how to define that because somebody comes up with a new kit about every 10 minutes about how to get around it. So then policymakers don't want to deal with it. Courts don't know where they are, given the Second Amendment. And it gets really dicey, complicated, messy. So we just keep ignoring it. Well,
what in the world is she babbling on about? Is she talking about cosmetic features? Like, well,
that's exactly right.
The flippy thing that goes up, well, they'll just call it the flippy thing that goes down because what goes up must come down. They keep changing it, and we just can't legislate around flippy things that keep going up and down. We have to have consistency in flippy things. What in the world is this woman babbling about? Basically, what she's trying to say is, we can't define what a weapon of war is outside of cosmetic things, and they just keep changing the cosmetics, and we don't know what to do.
Correct. That's exactly right. And this is why I put this clip in here, because it sets up, number one, it sets up for the next clip of she's stealing the work from the senators in the Senate who just put out the Go Safe Act. That's coming next. But the other thing here, she's articulating the frustration of the gun controllers because they consistently go after features and they go after accessories and they go after all these things which are not guns. And they make them into guns, but they're not guns. So they go in down this road of like, well, this is a kit and that's a bad kit. And this is a good kit, but this might be a kit. And now it's a weapon of war, but it wasn't a weapon of war. But I don't know. Is it Tuesday? Is it raining? Did we add in the exemption for one-handed elephants? I mean, like literally, dude, it's just, that's the frustration. That's where we put them. And that's why it's so important to fight these things, is because they are trying to poke holes in the dam and find where it's going to collapse. And they can't. And I love it with every bit of my being. Because it's sticky, messy, and complicated.
She sounded pretty desperate there.
She did. But have no fear, Tim, because the desperation has been dispelled. Here we go. Stealing the work. Plagiarism of the highest order. Number 4, Dr. Button Pusher.
Well, Senator Heinrich didn't. He's been at it for more than 7 years, and he's figured out that if we focus on the delivery systems, which can't be interrupted with these kits in the same way, this could be a federal vehicle. I agree with them. It's good work. Let's try that vehicle in our own assault weapons ban in New Mexico. Because one thing that I have that the senator doesn't have is I've got a set of lawmakers that are more likely than not to have a fair debate about guns, gun violence, weapons of war, and keeping New Mexicans safe than members of Congress are. So I feel pretty good about our ability here, and we'll have to see how those votes all shake out. But I think that that's a game changer for a lot of places, including New Mexico. So expect to see that on my call.
Oh, so she's talking about the new business end, is she not?
Exactly.
We're not talking about the muzzle or
No,
the bolt, the
no.
receiver, the ammunition, the flippy thing that goes up the barrel shroud. No, we're talking about the magazine now, the delivery mechanism. When's
The
it?
delivery mechanism.
What it
that's right.
delivers ammunition into the chamber. What is she talking about? I mean, wow.
Well, I'll
But
tell
now they're
you.
going to go after magazines. She won't say magazines.
No, she won't.
It's the delivery mechanism, the new business end.
Exactly.
I'm being nebulous over here because I'm not even sure what I'm talking about. But we're going to focus on these delivery system things.
Well, she's trying to steal the work from what Angus King said when he introduced the Go Safe Act, right? Remember the Go Safe Act, right?
Mhm.
The Gas Operated
Yes.
Safety Act, that whole thing. They're talking about the way the firearm functions. So the entire point is, yes, the magazine has to be affixed and it has to have a limit and all those pieces, but it's also all about how it actually functions, right? So it's driven by gas, which is where they get into the really sticky part, because when you start diving down to how it actually works and where it'll fall apart, it kind of does fall apart. And that's before you get to the court systems. But she's jumping the shark again. I mean, she jumped the shark already when she banned weapons and concealed carry permits in Bernalillo County. Well, she jumped the shark and all the Democrats piled onto her. Well, now she's jumping the shark to do an assault weapons ban that was introduced in the Senate that didn't even have a chance to get voted on. So now she's going to ruin and pee in their Cheerios on that one too, because she's on a quest.
Yeah.
She wants something higher.
But this whole Go Safe Act thing, it's so misleading. It's purposely being convoluted so people that are fence sitters out there looking in have no idea really what they're talking about. They don't have any idea what they're talking about, but they're trying to, instead of saying we want to ban self-loading firearms, we want to ban semi-automatic firearms, because that's what they're going after here. But they don't want to say that, right?
100%.
So they got to say, well, let's call it the gas-operated rifles. And so let me tell you what we want to ban. We want to you tap off gas over here, and the gas moves down this little tube, and then when it moves down this tube, it increases the partial pressure of oxygen to this level, which then impinges upon this part, which then rotates this part and moves over here. And this is what we want to ban. We want to ban all this. I hope that wasn't too confusing. Are you trying to say you want to ban self-loading rifles? No, we want to ban the gas system. Oh, yeah.
With oxygen.
And oxygen and nitrogen. Nitrogen's most of our atmosphere. And so we need to understand the partial pressures of all these different gases when we're using gas to impinge on this part to move this piece that is the delivery mechanism for the gun. It's like, shut the beep up and tell us what you really want. You're trying to say you want to ban semi-automatics. You want to ban guns that load themselves. You want to ban things that we use in their common use in 2023. It's like, oh my goodness, these people are desperate. And it's so ridiculous.
That's exactly right. And by the way, just a quick question, point of personal privilege. Did you just self-moderate with your own bleep in Tim rant?
I did.
I mean, that was on the fly.
Go bleep yourself.
Dr. Butterfisher, Dr. Harry, he's like, my one job, Tim.
And I stole it.
You did. You stole his thunder. Well, Tim, I think we learned a lot now from that segment with New Mexico. We learned a ton. But there's something else on the horizon, Tim. And then we get to your famous G3. Oh, there's something else on the horizon. And this coincides real nicely. This segment, Tim, is all about the media basically telling the Democrats, you done goofed and you're doing a bad job pushing gun control. I can't make this up. Listen to this. Look at this headline. This is number 5. Despite latest wave of mass shootings, Senate Democrats struggle to bring attention to gun control. What?
No, they're just not selling it because nobody's buying it.
Exactly. There's no demand. But it's kind of weird for that to come out of CBS. And, when these things happen, Tim, and we talk about this all the time, there's always something else happening. Like, watch the other hand. Always. These people are zealots. They are not going anywhere. They're just changing tactics. So if it looks like they're throwing water on something, that means they got fire going somewhere else.
Right.
100%. And if I show you a couple of these things, listen to what they're putting forward in this article. and then we'll correlate that with what Vice President Kamala Harris just announced today. And you'll be like, well, wouldn't you know? Look at that. And then we'll do a whole video on that in a second. So when I go here to, let's see, number 7, Dr. Button Pusher, nursing a narrow majority in a challenging election year. Tell me you're losing without telling me you're losing. Democrats in the Senate have made several attempts over the past month to inject some urgency into the gun control fight. Some? It's all they've been talking about for like 8 months.
I know. That's all they ever talk about.
I know, but it's just funny to see the media go, well, you know what, they really put a good effort behind it, and they are nursing a narrow majority, and they really are trying to bring some urgency, and they never talk about it. All they do is talk about it.
Yeah,
right. It's just it's kind of like, I don't want to make an analogy. It'll be pickles and ding dongs before I know it, but it's crazy, man.
Mhm.
I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And then if you go to I just teased, you know what Kamala Harris put out today, right?
No, enlighten me.
So, I will, and it's so interesting how it will tie into this. She put out 2 new executive orders through the Gun Violence Prevention Office, of which she heads, which is going to encourage gun violence prevention offices in other states, and it's going to encourage safe storage and Ethan's Law, universal background checks, AWBs, and magazine bans. But it's something in there, and we'll cover this in another video, but they literally said they don't believe they have the emphasis on federal, so they're going to focus on states in the short term. Well, what do you know, Tim? Like 3 or 4 days before this article comes out. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it almost seems like it's coordinated.
Hmm.
So wait, did you say that she's issuing executive orders? Surely that's not what you mean. She recommended.
The White House is signing them. She's announcing
Oh,
them.
okay.
Excuse me.
I was
You
gonna
are
say, well,
correct.
that would be a step. Like, you know what? We're just
That'd
going to
be
go ahead and
upsetting.
give the power of executive orders to the vice president now.
We're
and then to the
just
speaker.
gonna go ahead
and
and
then
expedite this whole
We're
thing.
just going to hand it on down the line. Everybody can write their own EOs. I love that. So,
Oh, exactly. So listen to this. So at the same time, again, I showed you the article. I showed you some of the things that are coming out. Told you what VP Harris is doing today. Listen, let's go back to the article. And this is number 10. Listen to some of the verbiage that they're saying, and then listen to John Fetterman. All right. The pessimism that pervades gun control legislation discussions, Freudian slip,
yeah.
discussions is unsurprising. The Congress is under divided control. Well, hold on a second, Tim. That's not what the gun controllers told us. Is it?
They don't lie.
No. Are you?
Don't.
Are you in?
Let's keep this on the high road, shall we?
Well, we're the digestion of the Second Amendment 2A and analysis, though. We gotta get in there, get the nutrients out. We gotta squeeze it out for the people. But they wouldn't lie, though. They wouldn't have done over the past, I don't know, 3 years, a unrelenting marketing campaign and gaslighting campaign to the American people through all of their medium, which, by the way, is going to come up again in G3 in a second, in order to convey that they're winning and they're more powerful than they actually are. Would they?
No, of course not.
They wouldn't.
Mm-mm.
They would never.
Nope.
After all, it's common sense. Gun control is right around the corner. They've got this,
Yep.
right?
I mean, matter of fact, they've even passed the most comprehensive gun control in 30 years. Hasn't done anything, but they're really proud of that.
Tim, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because it's the most comprehensive in 30 years, but at the same time, it doesn't do anything. They're words, and they need more.
Yeah.
It's so
Because
odd when you look at this.
when it doesn't work, naturally you just keep repeating the same process. Because eventually it's going to come out the way you want it to, right? I mean,
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And speaking of brilliance, as you have just illustrated, per usual, by the way, your wisdom and age is showing. I love it. Listen to this, because the paragon of wisdom in the Senate, John Fetterman, had some interesting words. This is number 11. Tell me you're losing without telling me you're losing. Senator John Fetterman, a Pennsylvania Democrat, told CBS News, quote, "It's a very complex and divided situation. It just hasn't been the priority." Again, I'm very confused, because that's all they've been talking about. But
I know.
this is I think this is a key point, Tim. When a Democrat talking about gun control says, "Well, it's a very complex and it's a divided situation. That means no one's listening to you.
Right. I mean, it just hasn't been priority. It's not like they had a unanimous consent vote or anything around gun control. There's just no priority here. We're just not even we're not even talking about it. Anybody talking about it? Anybody heard? Hey, over there, you talking about gun control this week? No, nobody had. Yeah, it's not been a priority. It's just kind of a divided issue. We're not doing anything over here.
No, it's a tall ask. It is a tall ask. It's not like they have an entire infrastructure that does nothing but pour out gun control propaganda, gaslighting. No,
right. It's not like they invented their own little new, group, this group that Harris heads that is supposed to save the world from this communicable disease known as violence. It's not like they started that up either. I mean, there's just no priority to this at all. None.
Nope. Nothing. There's no energy here.
That's why we haven't failed. We just haven't even tackled it yet.
Tim, again, you nailed it to the wall. Man, you are on it today. I love when you come sharp and ready. You have your oatmeal and your bananas. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Oh, and your McDonald's iced coffee all the time. That's a shtick. It's a staple. Well, Tim, you know what time it is? I think that time?
Know. Oh, my favorite.
It's part. It's G3 time.
All right, so this kind of goes into what we're talking about in today's video, how the left, I mean, they're not really focused on gun control, obviously. I mean, Fetterman laid that out for us, but if they were, it'd almost be like there's this, concerted effort to constantly propagandize the American people and feed them information in an effort, a group effort, so they're getting hit from all angles. It's do they really do that? No. Matter of fact, they really haven't prioritized gun control at all. But this just happened. I'm sure it's purely coincidental, has nothing to do with coordination or them pushing gun control. Number 21, Doc. So here we have 3 different posts on X from today from the various gun grabbing groups. And look, they all feature the same child. They all tell the same story. It's almost like there's a script here. They're all on script. They all reach out to each other like, okay, what are we going to push today? What's the narrative? Okay. Oh, we got this news item. So let's go ahead and take this tragedy and see if we can turn it into a gun control win. So they're out there actively looking for tragedies. And then when they find one, then they all come together and they all come up with the script and the narrative. And then they all go out there and blast it out across all their different outlets, be that mainstream media, X, Instagram, blog posts, whatever. And here's evidence of that. They absolutely, and this goes to something I've said before, they absolutely need this chaos. They need these tragedies. They need these events because this is how they push their gun control agenda. Well, I mean, they're not really pushing anything. They've been kind of remiss, but if they were to push a gun control agenda, it would probably look something like this. And
of course.
Yeah. And so they don't even, I mean, many times they'll do this. And we said this before, it's so tacky and tasteless, but it's the truth. Whenever a tragedy happens, we haven't even had a funeral yet. And these guys are out there using it for their own political gain. It's disgusting behavior.
With
plastering this child's face
whatsoever.
Right. And look, folks, people die every day. I'm not going to downplay the fact that this child should not have lost their life, but people die in car crashes and motorcycle accidents and fentanyl poisonings. People die every single day. We're never going to stop accidental death, be it with a car, with a sharp object, with a firearm. We can try to minimize that, but the reality is we're all here for a finite amount of time. We're all going to die, and we cannot ever get rid of all the violence. We cannot get rid of all the accidental deaths. We can't get rid of murders or anything like that. We can try to minimize it, but that's not what they're doing. What they're trying to do here is they're trying to use this tragedy to strip you of your rights, and that's all they care about is getting those rights away from you. This child's unfortunate circumstances really isn't their priority. If they really cared about children, I can give you a whole bunch of different examples of things that they really don't care about children. They just don't. Right.
Well, and Tim, I think that was genuine. That was heartfelt. I think that was a very good point. But I do want to critique one thing, just one thing. I think this is an important note. There are different colors on the backgrounds.
Oh, they did change. Yes,
they're not exactly the same. So therefore, you may be fact checked. You may be, because
sure, it's not really the same story, is it?
It's not, because there's green in one and there's yellow in another one, and in the other one there's
kind of green yellow
with white. Yeah, it's like Grello. Yes. Exactly. So I just want to point that out. Just to be fair, other side, it's a very, as John Fetterman said, it's a very complex and divided situation. It is. Yeah, it's hard.
But they're not really
It's
pushing gun control,
no,
folks. This
no.
wasn't a concerted
Mm-mm.
effort by gun grabbers
Nope.
to try to use a tragedy to yank at your heartstrings and try to get you to surrender your rights. That's not what they're doing here. No.
No.
They're
Look
on
at
the
the
up and
color
up.
differences. It's
Yeah.
obviously different. Obviously.
Oh, so let's move on to number 24. Doc, if you could throw
Yeah.
up number 24. This is from our friends over at the Brady United Against Gun Violence group. They change their name like every week. I just call them the Brady Bunch. There are more gun dealers in America than Starbucks and McDonald's combined. Sounds like freedom. If
Sounds
guns
like
made
awesome.
us safer, the U.S. would be the safest nation on earth. Now, this is a shtick that they keep pushing out there. Like when they don't have anything else to
Mhm.
say for the day, this is one of those shticks they always go back to. And what they'll never tell you when they make these stupid statements is what we've pointed out many times here on Second Legacy. Doc, if you could throw up number 25, this is violent crime nationally in the United States and how it's trended over the decades. So you'll see that it's been trending down for decades, right?
Yes.
And this goes along with number 26. Doc, if you could throw this up, this is one example, but this is about the MSRs. We've used this graphic before. I just want to repurpose it. MSR is a
Mhm.
modern sporting rifle, which is a phrase that the pro-gun groups came up with to counter weapons of war and assault weapons. They just call them MSRs. But this shows you how the graph that I just showed you previously, now it's an orange line trending down. That's violence in the United States trending down for decades. And then look at the little blue bars. You know what that is? That's people buying MSRs.
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't even include
No,
all the most recent
this
buying.
isn't-
That's from 2016.
This is, yeah, and this, not only that, but this also, and it goes up even more pronounced
what I'm
since
saying.
from 2016 to 2023,
Mhm.
it's skyrocketed even more. I mean, this thing is just almost in a straight vertical climb
Yeah.
in terms of sales. And this is just MSRs. This is just those AR-15s and the AKs of the world. This doesn't include handguns, rifles, shotguns, and everything else in between. Right. This is just focusing on those MSRs, what the anti-gunners like to call assault weapons. So yes, we do see that statement that John Lott came out with decades ago himself, that more guns equal less crime. Clearly, we see more guns in the United States and in the hands of civilians, and clearly we're seeing a decrease in crime. And they want to upset that and say, oh no, really, let's just take the guns away from the law-abiding, let the criminals have them, and that should bring crime down even more. Does that make sense to you?
No, it's weird, but it doesn't. It's odd how all of these things are almost like propaganda that's easily refuted by facts.
Yeah.
I mean, like they like to play this game of myth. More guns make everyone even safer. Fact, 1 in 5 potential chance of asteroid coming in from the planet. Like if you don't have a gun, you're not metallic and it's not magnetically attracted to you. But if you did, are you willing to take that chance? I mean, like it's just.
And if we don't like
stupid.
the FBI statistics, we'll just come up with our own.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and that we see them doing that. They start up their own little, They try to paint them as these little benign, innocent, we only here for the facts, ma'am type of organizations, but they exist purely to pump out fake numbers. What's your favorite, Braden? Don't you have a favorite group that does this?
Tim, are you referring to my personal favorite?
I am.
The Gun Violence Archive?
Yes.
That was
what a great name.
Founded by Slate Magazine, a far left organization dedicated to gun control. No, you wouldn't be. And it's also being sourced by politicians on the left who want gun control, media acolytes, and gun groups.
Yeah.
You're not talking about that organization, are you?
That organization.
The Butthole of Freedom?
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's just one of several. That they,
Man.
like I said, if they can't get the numbers they want out of government agencies and the CDC, who actually put out a report saying that guns are used far more times in the United States, like a lot more in legal self-defense than they're misused in crime. And then the groups like the Brady Bunch and everybody else came out and said, you got to pull that down. You can't do that. You're screwing up our narrative. Right. So the CDC pulled it down. And now they're out there saying we need to fund and commission a new study by the CDC. Why? So when you don't get the outcome you want, you just make them take that down too?
Just do it again. Yeah, because it's funny you mentioned that study, Tim, because my favorite group, the Butthole of Freedom, Gun Violence Archive, they're the ones who front-loaded that entire push to remove those CDC statistics and data points and study. Don't worry, we have pictures and we actually have evidence and downloaded the entire thing. So it didn't go anywhere. It just pulled off the CDC's website, but it still has the watermarks. Hold on, let me get really intense here. We have the watermarks. It's so asinine. And honestly, Tim, I am so glad to be in the upper intestine of freedom with you every single day so we can really get the nutrients out for the people because they need the nutrients.
And we hope you enjoyed your daily dose of nutrients. Thanks for watching Second Legacy, and we'll talk to you guys soon.